I'm Iris Barrett from Oakridge, Oregon. I am super excited to share my process to stop verbal abuse and bullying and to do it effectively and safely. I was raised with a certain amount of verbal abuse, and I wrote this empowering poem that has been shared all around the world. Why? It's so important because verbal abuse is so prevalent. You know, the sad thing about verbal abuse, especially when we're children and we have no filter, is that we grow up feeling ashamed. We feel like we can't live up to the standards of others because that's the message that they give us. And the sad part about that, too, is that we grow up feeling ashamed and we're afraid of making mistakes, which, of course, disrupts our creativity, makes us feel repressed. A lot of negative aspects to verbal abuse. And of course, the reason this process is so important is because verbal abuse is so prevalent within all cultures all around the world, also socioeconomic strata. We see it in our schools with our youth. We see it on television. Of course, we see it in the workplace, within families. So I'm very excited to share this process. You know, this process is so important because it has been translated. Of all the things I've written, it has been translated into the most languages and distributed around the world through Simbi.com, my favorite 100% trade site, simbi.com. You don't know about Simbi, you should. Of course, I also send it anonymously to people through my Etsy store, Evolving Genius Awards, through my website, anonymousexpressions.com. I will share it. I've shared it at libraries, pretty much anybody that'll listen to me. And here's the most important part for me. I began sharing it with domestic violence shelters. These poor women that have been beaten down find a voice to allow themselves to get angry, express the truth about verbal abuse. And of course, then it plants a couple of good seeds about what we do want to create. And then at the end, the poem seriously asks for what you want. Shame, shame, shame on you. Wake up now to see and change the damage that you do. It's a powerful message. It's actually an act of power. Some of the positive things this poem has going for it. Number one, it's written as a poem. It's a more universal voice. It's not like you trying to express how angry you are about verbal abuse and trying to find the words to not sound like you. You get to sound like me. You get to find that universal voice that tells the truth. And the beautiful thing is this act of power, when people do it, then they can let go. They've told the truth. They've asked for what they wanted. They have stayed safe and effective. All very, very important aspects. And this process has been going from one domestic violence shelter to another. It's been going around libraries, schools, pretty much anybody and everybody that will let me share it, I do and I will. And I'm hoping that you will too. The class project is going to be a lot of fun. I have an insightful questionnaire about verbal abuse and bullying. I also have some other resources for advocacy. And of course, you can decide if you want to send my poem, Shame on You, about verbal abuse anonymously to someone as a voice of protection. That's what this has become internationally. It's been translated into a ton of languages. I get these wonderful emails from people in other languages that I have to translate. It's about the efficacy or effectiveness of this process. I get emails in broken English from people around the world who have done their best to translate and express to me how powerful this process is. Several things it has going for it. Yes, it's a poem. It's done in a universal format. And it's in written format. People receive it in the mail, and they do read it and reread it when they receive it in the mail. So it is absolutely an act of protective power to protect so many seniors. We have elder abuse, again, with our youth. Verbal abuse is rampant, and this grandma is here to help mitigate it. And I'm calling on all the peacemakers, all the wisdom keepers, the teachers, the counselors, the parents, the grandparents. I'm asking you all to join me in mitigating verbal abuse and bullying. And in the next video, I'm very excited to share the process, the poem Shame on You, and to talk to you about the important aspects in terms of what I have learned about keeping you safe. And trust me, this poem is effective. Thank you so much. I'm excited to share.